Hey, I'm Jeff Goolsby with the Goolsby Group at Keller Williams, and I specialize in selling homes in the Roseville area of California. Now, I wanted to bring you a market update. Today is Monday, April 20th, and I want to let you know a few things that are happening in the country and what the data says about what's happening in Roseville. All right. Now, some people way smarter than me in economics and that study data across the nation have put together some really great slides that I'm going to share with you. But I wanted to take it a step further and show you what that means to our local real estate market. Sound fair? Cool. Bear with me here. I'm going to pull up my screen and I'm going to show you a quick presentation that I put together for you. So this is your Roseville market update. There are 5 things that you need to know, 5 most commonly asked questions right now from these economists as well as real estate professionals in the area. The first question that's being asked right now by most people, I think by just people in general, not just real estate professionals, is when is the economy going to recover? Now, the reason that this question is important, not just for the economy, but for real estate, is a lot of the discussions that I have with clients, when it comes to moving, has to do with timing, right? It's location, 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 but it's also very much timing, timing, timing. So being able to advise our clients on when is the right time for them to make a move is an important portion, an important part of our business. And right now with uncertainty, we need to rely on professionals to tell us what could we expect from the economy. Now, this is not a recession. This is not a recession like the one we've seen before. This is not a Great Depression. This is a pandemic, and this is a recession caused from a pandemic, which in the past history has shown a V-type recovery. What does that mean? It means the economy falls very fast, very hard, and it also recovers quickly as well. A mentor that I follow and the man responsible for putting these slides together said something along the lines of, it's like we're being smacked in the face one time really hard. It hurts, but we quickly forget about it and we rebound or something like that. Versus in the past, a long recession, it's like we're being tapped on the head for hours and hours and hours. And it gets very painful after a while and it's very slow and drawn out and it just is, ugh. But it takes a while, right? This is not that. This is a V-type recovery. It's going to hurt, but we're going to bounce back relatively quickly if history repeats itself. The number 2 question, are we going into a recession? Well, I think the data shows that yes is the answer to that. If you remember the slide just that I showed you, the V-type recovery shows us falling for 2 quarters. So the answer is yes, we're going into recession. However, when it comes to real estate, just because we were in a recession in 2008, that was a housing crash, doesn't mean that a recession equals housing crash. In fact, over the last 5 recessions, only 2 of them saw a negative, saw depreciation in home values. And actually, really the only main one that saw a significant depreciation in home values was the Great Recession, the recession that was caused by the housing market. In the past, we see a slowdown of appreciation. And even in like 2001, we actually saw a pretty significant gain in home values during a recession. So the point of this slide is to say, yes, we might be going into a recession. I think we are. However, a recession does not equal a housing crisis. Okay, right into number 3, which is this going to be like 2008? Well, all the data says no. It's not going to be like 2008 because so far it hasn't been like the years prior to 2008. So if you look at the way that home prices were appreciating back in 2000 and 2001 and 2002, 2004, we're just seeing these very significant, artificial gains in real estate market. And this over the last 5 years, we've seen very conservative numbers, still good numbers, still positive numbers, but overall pretty conservative in terms of the national housing market. Another reason why this isn't going to be like 2008 is because the mortgage credit availability index, which basically says how hard is it to get a mortgage, Well, right now, and ever since really 2008, since the crisis, more housing market crisis, uh, it's been relatively hard to get a mortgage, right? So what that tells you is that the infrastructure of our housing market, the borrowers that are in our housing market are much more qualified than they were before, which is less likely to lead to a housing crash. Also supporting whether or not this is going to be like 2008, if we look in the past, for cash out refinances, for the amount of money that people were pulling from their homes, and many of them were just putting it into depreciating assets like boats or vacations or things that just they were just spending their money, right? Over $824 billion was pulled out of home equity between 2005 and 2008, right? And between 2017 and now, a total of 232 billion was pulled out in home equity cash out refinances. So a significantly less amount of money is being pulled out by homeowners, which means we still have a good amount of equity in our homes. Kind of rewinding actually really quick, if you remember, during the housing crash, a huge portion of the homes that became available for sale were foreclosures and short sales, right? There was no longer equity. They could not sell their home in a traditional manner. They had to give it back to the bank or do a short sale. Now, there's not as less money being pulled out. There's a pretty significant amount of equity still in the homes. Leading to that, 50%, 53.8% of Americans have more than 50% equity in their property. Okay? 37% of Americans own their home free and clear. Now, you might be asking, okay, well, that's great. In America, 53% own their homes. A lot of people have, home values are significantly less in Oklahoma. So I get it. I get how someone could own 50% of their $100,000 home or $150,000 home. So you might want to know what the data shows in Roseville, right? Well, the data in Roseville is actually very similar. Almost 52% of homeowners in Roseville have at least 50% equity in their property. 19%, almost 20% actually, of homeowners in Roseville own their home free and clear. And almost 18% have at least 25% equity in their home. Okay. So what that means is if the market, and I'm not suggesting this is going to happen, however, if the market were to drop 25%, still about 70% of homeowners in Roseville would have a positive amount of equity in their home. And, maybe 18% might be on a very fine line, with only 10% being probably the newer homeowners, the people that have, low down payment programs or that have recently pulled equity out of their property. So what that says to me is we are not, people have asked about, are we going to see foreclosures? Are we going to see short sales? And the reality is no, we're not, because there is so much equity still wrapped up in people's homes. What about all these job losses? Now, I'm not going to lay on this topic for too long because, in reality, I am not an economist. I'm a real estate professional. However, it is a common question that I get in terms of, well, if people are losing their jobs, are they going to be able to buy homes? If people are losing their jobs, are they going to also lose their house? Okay. So there's a couple of things that I want to point out here in regards to real estate. First, not necessarily in regards to real estate, but I want you to remember the V-type recovery, right? So yes, we might be at an all-time high for unemployment, but the experts are suggesting that we're going to bounce back quickly. So that might mean we're going to be at very low unemployment rates in the next few years, okay? Also, remember that a significant amount of homeowners still have equity in their home. So just because they lose their job doesn't necessarily mean they're going to lose their house. they still have a lot of equity. They might be able to potentially pull some out. They might be forced to sell. That might happen, but they still have positive equity in their home. Okay. Another reason why I don't want to go too deep on unemployment rates is because, for one, I didn't study those, in school, and two, the data shows that unemployment rates and home sales do not actually have a direct relationship with one another. If you notice this chart, these are existing home sales, and then here's unemployment rate. It's all over the place. There's not a significant connection between either of them. All right. Now, my favorite part, because this is more about action. How do we take the data that we now know and apply it to your plans? Apply it to what you want to do. Well, if you remember, it's going to be a V-type recovery, so the time frame isn't going to be extremely long. So what that means is, if you're planning on hunkering down and you're planning on waiting it out for a significant amount of time, well, then I'd urge you to reconsider, because the time frame might not be that significant. And in fact, the time that you spend hunkering down and worrying about what might happen, in that amount of time, things might have already changed. Okay, so my best clients are making plans now and being prepared for when the market rapidly adjusts again, when the economy really bounces back. Something to also be aware of in terms of the housing market: these green bars here represent homes that are for sale, and the dark green bars represent homes that have sold. Okay, the red bar represents homes that are pending sale. Now, if you look in the past, from 2005 to 2000, let's say 8, we had a significantly high number of homes available. But look at these dark green bars. It's almost always the same amount of homes that are selling month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. Of course, there's some normal seasonality, but for the most part, these same number of homes are being sold all the time. Now, as we go on throughout the years, you notice these light green bars get lower and lower and lower. And just before we hit the stay-at-home order, we were at an all-time low of inventory. The number of homes that were for sale was the lowest it had ever been. All right. So what does that mean? That means if you're planning on selling your home and you were to do it in January or February, you had the lowest amount of competition ever available. Okay. Now, because of that, because we've paused and the rate that homes have hit the market is much slower, we still actually have very, very low levels of inventory. So in theory, it actually could be, depending on your home and the price of your home, it actually could be a really good time to sell your home right now. There's a whole lot less competition. But what we'll probably see is, because we sort of paused right here at the end of this graph, right? We should have been closer to like there. There's a good chunk of inventory that's missing right here. And we're going to need to see that. We're going to need to, those homeowners didn't just decide not to sell their home anymore. They decided to pause. So what we'll probably see in the next 3 months is an uptick in inventory. Okay. Now, that typically would mean not a great thing for sellers. An uptick in inventory, you usually want to see lower levels of inventory for a seller's market. But if you notice, even if it jumps up, let's say it jumps up, it doubles and it goes to 450 homes. That's still, it's going to feel like a lot, but it's actually not the most amount of inventory that we've seen. In fact, there have been other months in other quarters in really good years in real estate that have had higher numbers than 450. This is what's happening right now. Over the last 7 days, there are 240 homes that are active on the market in Roseville. There are 77 homes that went pending sale in the last 7 days. Okay, those are not Those are not old numbers. That's happening right now in this market. So 77 people still decided that right now is a good time for them to either buy or sell a home. And 35 homes that recently closed in the last 7 days. Now, in the past, I hesitated to use closing numbers because I felt like maybe those were in contract prior to the stay-at-home order. But realistically, we've been home now for over a month. And so 35 represents homes that went into escrow either right before or shortly after the stay-at-home order was put into place. So those are buyers and sellers that are celebrating not only having sold or bought a new home, but having done it during the midst of this pandemic and the stay-at-home order. What should you do right now? Now, this data is specific to Roseville and to the nation. It applies differently to every person's scenario. What you should be doing right now certainly is preparing. You should be spending this time that you are probably at home, or you have maybe a bit more time than usual because you're not going out to different events and things like that. You should be using this time to prepare, because I know that the ones that are back right now, that are sharpening their axes, that are waiting for the right time to strike, that are waiting for the right time to get a good deal on a house, waiting for the right time to put their home on the market, the ones that are spending their time preparing right now are going to be the ones that are absolutely the most successful. So what should you do right now? You should be consulting with a professional. You should be talking about what your plans are going to be when things go back to normal, or things maybe not even back to normal, when things go, when this is lifted, because we know it will be lifted. So you should be preparing with a professional now to see what your plan of action is going to be when things are lifted. All right. So that's your market update. Today is Monday, April 20th. I'm going to bring you more of them. If you have any questions, or if you'd like me to feature more information on the next market update, please reach out to me and let me know. I'm Jeff Goolsby with the Goolsby Group at Keller Williams. Thanks for watching.